Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into setting up an Apple Watch for sports. So this was a video I would have liked to have available myself the first couple of days and weeks of owning this watch, which I got mainly for sports. We will also spend an extra minute for those of you transitioning from Garmin devices or those of you wanting to use their Apple Watch in parallel to a Garmin device or another sports watch, such as a Garmin watch, for example. Don't worry, the tips and tricks we'll cover are useful for anyone looking to maximize their Apple Watch for sports and fitness, but I will spend, let's say, the extra minute here on Garmin users, which is a large segment of the sports watch audience. I have personally set my watch up for running, indoor rowing and general fitness, which should have us covered for almost all our needs here. But for example, mine is not specifically aimed at biking as an activity. Now, before we go any further, let me start by saying the Apple Watch, comes packed with strong built-in features. You do not necessarily need any of the apps I'm about to go over here. If you just use your Apple Watch for sports and don't need further integration with other services, quite frankly, you're all set, just, ready to go. You can basically get by perfectly fine with just your Apple Watch. However, to really maximize what you can get out of this watch, we will explore some third-party apps that can, in my opinion, really enhance your experience. This video is not sponsored by any third-party apps or, not sponsored by any means, in fact. So this is just feedback from me, a sports enthusiast who happens to use an Apple Watch for sports tracking and all that. So my goal today is to show you the essential apps and setup steps to get the most out of your Apple Watch. So without further ado, let's jump over to the other desk and get started. Alright, so first things first, just the bare essentials here. Let's tackle the initial setup. So grab your iPhone and open the Apple Watch app. So opening the Apple Watch app here, what you want to do is you want to start by going to privacy. And just make sure you at least enable some of these things. As you can see, for me, almost everything is enabled. I turned off the environmental sound measurements. It's really not relevant to me, and it just avoids that the watch is constantly listening for that metric. And I think it might save on battery life, but I'm not sure. So that's on privacy. And then the other one, of course, there's a bunch of settings you can go through, but the essential one, so privacy and then workout. If you go to workout, just make sure you set this in a way that is convenient for you. All right. So for me, for example, I have this press to pause, which I do want to highlight, which is this one here, which means for the Apple Watch Ultra that by pressing the side orange button and the crown at the same time, it will pause your workout, which is extremely helpful because the Apple Watch Ultra does not, and the Apple Watch does not have a stop button when you're tracking an activity. So instead what I do is at the end of a workout, I press both buttons, which is very convenient. This will then pause the tracking or the workout tracking. And then when my fingers are nice and dry and I stop sweating, I can press and hold my screen and save my workout. It never fails me, and in fact I like it quite a lot. But initially I did miss that feature of just pressing a button to stop a workout. So this doesn't stop and end the workout, it will pause the workout, which is just as convenient once you get used to it. Now, into the software of things. So let's talk about syncing and data transfer. So if you're coming from Garmin, you will also be used to working with Garmin Connect. It's difficult to say goodbye to Garmin Connect, speaking from experience, because it is an excellent service, that comes for free, no subscription, with your Garmin sports watch. So if you buy an Apple Watch, what does that now mean? Can you no longer use Garmin Connect? Well, out of the box, yes, you can't use Garmin Connect anymore. However, there is a little third-party app. The one I use is called RunGap, and this one allows you to sync your Apple Watch data to Garmin Connect and also other platforms, right? So it's basically a little hub which will make sure that any data you want, you can really fine-tune that from different apps, different tools, get synced to different platforms. This will also help if you are using, for example, two watches, right? So if you're using a Garmin device and also an Apple device, but you want to keep all your metrics in Garmin Connect, because this will actually enable doing that. So this is very helpful, again, especially if you already have years and years of data in Garmin Connect and aren't quite ready to give up on all that data. So that's it, RunGap. That is my first recommendation. Which brings us to the next one. I would call this one the mapping and navigation, but it's way more than that. So mapping, right, offline maps and so on, are supposed to work out of the box with the Apple Watch, if you read online. Personally, I have had nothing but issues with this. So it's simply not working properly for me, which led me to an app called Workoutdoors. It's hands down the best app for offline maps and, more than that of course, detailed workout tracking and scheduling. I use it pretty much all the time. It will essentially replace the native workout app on Apple for, when you want it. It can also work perfectly well in parallel to it. So you can use Workoutdoors for certain activities and then the standard native workout app for other activities works perfectly fine. And again, RunGap is there also to help make sure the syncing goes to plan. You can have great flexibility the way you want to see your metrics while doing your activities. So during your runs, you can have different screens. You can tweak those screens a million ways, really just to suit your taste and needs. You can program workouts in here, tune them just the way you like them. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this app. But so back to offline maps, right? That's what got us here. So the offline maps is you do that on your iPhone. You select a part of the map which you want to keep offline, and then you store it, and it's basically done. Just make sure you wait long enough on your Wi-Fi to ensure that the map part, or the map tiles, I believe they call them, are downloaded correctly. But then about the routes, I guess is how I should say it. So what you can do is you can go to something like Google Maps, right? Which I will be showing here as I'm doing the talking. You go to Google Maps and you trace out your route, different checkpoints and so on. You do all that. Then you go to you save that route, and then you go to there are different services that provide this. The one I'm showing here is the one I'm using. You go here, and this allows you to export that route as a GPX file, which you can very easily airdrop then to your phone, which then allows you to open and load that in Workoutdoors. So this is really perfect for those who like to explore new trails or routes without worrying about losing signal. So everything's stored offline. There are many other ways to do this, right? But this is the one that seems to work best for me and the way I like to plan out my routes or my routes. I also have an account on Strava, which also has a routes feature. But you know what? I use this workaround way more than the Strava one. Which of course brings me to Strava, which is another great app for mapping and workout tracking. You can sync your workouts, and while the free version is quite robust, the premium feature offers even more detailed analytics and route planning. I do find it rather expensive, right? So if you're just using it for casual tracking and staying in touch, let's say, with the Strava world, I think the free version is currently just fine in its current state. The subscription is, in my humble opinion, currently very expensive for what you get. So these are already the essential ones, I would say, and then I'll briefly highlight some other useful apps. So people coming from Garmin will remember the body battery feature, which is quite nice. On the Apple Watch, you can get a currently free app which is called Body State. So it tracks your energy levels, your sleep and all that, and it kind of tells you, at which charge level your body is at. Not the most, essential app to have, but I do enjoy using it, and that's good enough for me. Then I want to pause here briefly with two of my most used apps while working out, but they are not actually workout apps. So one is Spotify, so definitely get Spotify on your Apple Watch if that is possible for you. And then the same thing for Audible, which is for audiobooks. That's a service I use for that. If I'm running, usually that's a very nice time for me to listen to an audiobook, which is, I would say the most used non-workout app here on this watch for me. So there you have it. The Apple Watch comes with fantastic built-in apps and metric tracking, but these third-party apps can really take your experience to the next level and also make that transition or integration with Garmin, if you are a Garmin user, quite nice. Workoutdoors is a must-have in my book. The rest really kind of depends on your personal preference and the sports you're into. So yeah, don't be afraid to explore and customize your Apple Watch to fit your needs. If you found this video helpful, please let me know. Like, subscribe if you care, but do let me know in the comments as well. I'm curious what you thought was actually useful here, and if you have other tips as well that you can share to make the Apple Watch even more useful for sports, I am personally interested to hear that. So anyway, as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching and happy training.